This is Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, the viewer's guide to genre television for the weeks of July 28th to August 16th, 2025.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kevin Batchelder.
I'm Wendy Hembrock.
And I'm Brent Barrett.
All right. And we have got a chock-full show for you folks since it's been a couple of weeks since we recorded, so looking forward to covering a lot of stuff here. Sit back, get comfy. Kicking off first, as you know, we have been talking about our giveaway that we were running for the Stargate Mega Pack DVD, gently used set giveaway from one of our listeners. And that contest, our giveaway has closed, and we randomly drew a winner. Congrats to forum member C. Kevin W. on being the winner there. I've reached out with a DM, so if you're listening but haven't checked Discord in a while, take a look there, and we'll get that moving forward. So thanks to everybody who entered.
Woohoo!
Yeah, congratulations, Kevin. I guess you're Kevin. I mean, I don't think you pronounce that Kibu. I don't know how to pronounce that, so I think you're just Kevin.
C. Kevin. He's C. Kevin.
Okay.
Awesome. There we go. So we'll have another similar type giveaway coming up probably in September. Very generous listener. So awesome stuff. And thanks for all who also commented in that thread. We did the entries, if you're not aware, through Discord, a channel in Discord. Some folks commented without even entering. So it was kind of fun. Fun conversations as usual there on Discord. So we encourage everybody to join us over there and be part of the fun.
Yeah, it was very fun, and we really appreciate the generosity of our listeners to participate, and also the one who gave us this awesome SG1 content to share.
All right. Speaking of our Discord, we have a poll. Brent's been doing a great job running those. We've got a new one that finished out. We want to catch up on results. This is where we were asking which of the list of original spin-off combination shows is your favorite. So we had 10 or so entries here, some well-known shows and all. And the winner turned out to be Life. No, I'm misreading my information. Backing it up, pack up the bus. Yeah. The winner, not surprisingly, was Buffy and Angel with 48% of the vote.
Yeah, not surprising at all.
Sorry to confuse you there, Kevin. I take a screenshot of mine, and that check mark that you're looking at is my vote. So
yeah, that's what threw me off. I looked at the check mark thinking that was the winner, but not the case.
No, I didn't win.
But no, that was a fun one. I mean, not a surprise with such a well-known show there, but we did still have several other shows: Babylon 5, Life on Mars, $6 Million Man, that were getting some votes as well.
I'm kind of surprised that Life on Mars did so well. I'm happy. I'm just happily surprised.
Yeah, I'm surprised in comparison. When you think of that, I'm surprised when you realize that The Boys and Gen V didn't get any votes, and Supernatural and the Winchesters didn't get any votes either. I would have thought that they would have gotten a couple too. Yeah,
just, the eclectic nature of our community there. So keep an eye on Discord. Brent's doing a great job putting up other polls, so that was a fun one. Thanks for those who jumped in and voted. All right, with that kind of stuff covered, let's get ready to move over to our spoiler-free water cooler.
Technorama, the podcast for geeks, because geeks are better than cool. You don't hear someone say, "Get away from me, you cool person." Who's gonna have their 65-inch home theater system installed by the Cool Squad? Not me, that's for sure. How much cool cred do you have? Not enough to care about. Think you'll find any canned unicorn meat at thinkcool.com? It's just a part domain name. They don't even have roadkill in a paper cup. That's why you need to start listening to Technorama, because that's what geeks do. Go to chuckchat.com and listen to Technorama before you turn cool.
Alrighty, starting us off in the water cooler here, we've got our quick reviews, and we're going to be covering shows that aired between July the 26th and August the 15th, as we'll be giving ratings such as watch it now, watch it soon, let it sit, or you can skip it. So starting us off here, we're first going to include discussions for The Librarians, the next chapter. We had 2 episodes in here, and we're in our first season. We had episode 11, and The Graffiti of the Gods, and episode 12, and The Unfinished Business, which was the season finale. I would give both of them high watch it soons.
I have not seen these yet.
I would give the one before the end a watch it soon, but the finale, I'd say hi, watch it soon, yeah.
All right. Look for a conversation about those later in our Chockville Back Porch. Next up, Revival. We've got 3 episodes in its first season. Episode 8, A Rose and a Thorn. Episode 9, Mother of Babylon. And episode 10, Rend the Veil, which was the season finale. For me, for Revival, these are all in the low watch it soon to the finale, maybe a watch it soon.
I am not watching this.
Yeah, it got kind of slow and draggy towards the end with a big flashback sequence that I didn't really need. I'd say the third to last was a high end let it sit, then a low watch it soon, and then Kevin, I'll be a little more favorable to it. I'll give the finale a high watch it soon. I thought it was a pretty good close to the story.
Yeah, all right. Well, again, that's another one I think we'll talk a little bit about Back Porch too. All right, next up, Star Trek, Strange New Worlds. 3 episodes in here. We're in season 3. We have episode 4, A Space Adventure Hour. Episode 5, Through the Lens of Time. And episode 6, The Shallot Who Ate Its Tail, if I'm pronouncing that right. And for me, ratings-wise, I would go high watch it soon, and also a high watch it soon.
Oh, I would go watch it now, high watch it soon, watch it now.
Okay, so I'm going to be the contrarian here, and this first rating hurts me in my soul because Star Trek may be my favorite show on TV right now, Strange New Worlds. I mean, Alien Earth did come along this last week and say, hold my beer, so it might be going up there too. But I'd give that holodeck episode a let it sit. I really did not like it at all. I'd give the next one a high watch it soon, and the most recent one I'd give watch it now. That's real Star Trek for me.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think we'll be talking a little bit more about those later too. Got a lot to talk about this week. All right. Next, we've got Foundation. 3 episodes here in season 3. We have episode 4, The Stress of Her Regard. Episode 5, Where Tyrants Spend Eternity. And episode 6, The Shape of Time. Got some big stuff happening here. I will go watch it soon, and then 2 very high watch it soons.
Yeah, I'm going to go watch it soon, high watch it soon, high watch it soon.
I'm not watching.
All right, next we have Resident Alien. We're finishing out the series finale here for this one, folks. So season 4, episode 9, Tunnel Vision, and episode 10, The End Is Here. I would go high watch it soon, and I will generously say watch it soon.
Oh, I would give them both a high watch it soon.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Kevin, although I won't be as generous. I'll say high watch it soon and then a low watch it soon.
Okay. Valid. Very valid. All right. Next up, as Brent teased a little earlier, we had the premiere of Alien Earth. We have 2 episodes that aired. The first was titled Neverland, and the second titled Mr. October. I enjoyed these. I would go, for me, a high watch it soon and then a watch it soon.
I have not seen these yet.
I did not go into this expecting to really like it, and I'm going to talk about it in the back porch, but I'm going to give both of these a low watch it now.
All right. Looking forward to hearing more. And then finally, we had the beginning of season 2 of Wednesday. They're doing it in 2 sets of 4 episode drops. The first one occurred here since we last recorded, so we're in season 2. Episode number 1, Here We Woe Again. Episode 2, The Devil You Woe. Episode 3, Call of the Woe. And episode 4, If These Woes Could Talk. I watched them in a chunk, so I'm going to rate them all the same, and it's a very high watch it soon for me.
I'm going to do it the same way and give it a high watch it soon.
I also watched it in a chunk, but I'm going to split up the votes a little bit. I was super excited to see Wednesday back. I mean, everything I missed was still here. So the first 3 are high-end watch it soon for me. The last one, I'm going to go low watch it now.
Yep, I can see that. Definitely. All right, let's move over. We got a couple of listener feedbacks and then some news to share, folks. So first up here, we've got a voicemail. This one is from Jesse Jackson in Dallas, Texas, and he is talking about our discussion a little bit about Star Trek, Starfleet Academy.
You know, Brent, I think you could be right. And what I hope is, because I'm okay with Grey's Anatomy in space or the paper chase in space to show how really old I am, that as long as each episode kind of deals with an assignment or a lab experiment or an away mission that they have to do, kind of almost like a reality show where each episode, they have to do some kind of challenge. If you mix that in there along with, a lot of, if you do have interpersonal relationships, you have a lot of back and forth because people are always alphas and the competition of trying to be the best. I think that could be interesting. And of course, with the cast, especially the, looks like the two main leads, that could be a lot of fun. But, we'll see.
Thanks for that, Jesse. Yeah, I could never get into that, but I see where you're coming from. If they do it well, I'm not opposed to relationships. I mean, I'm a big shipper, right? I mean, John Aaron, John Dehlin, all that stuff, I'm a big shipper. So if they do it really well and they only make it a minor part of the ongoing, threads of this series, then I'll be fine with it. As long as you say, like you say, they do some sort of a significant story per week that takes up the majority of the episode. So I'll wait and see. I'm going to check it out. It's Star Trek. I'm going to check out all Star Treks, but the trailer just gave me the wrong vibes. I don't know why.
Yeah, I follow your points as well, Jesse, and we touched on this in our discussion. It definitely, to me, wasn't a great trailer or teaser. And that was the vibe you could definitely get. So again, if done well, yes, that could still be very entertaining. But it's interesting that that's a vibe several of us got, not just here, but I also saw it in some discussions online too. So I'm not overthinking this one though until we get what I would call a full trailer or a real trailer. Because my sense was they didn't have a lot to use, but wanted to do the teaser. And therefore all you could see were some character shots and stuff, so I guess we'll wait and see. I mean, yes, it's Holly Hunter. It's Star Trek. So, I'm there, but let's see what we get.
Yeah. Thanks, Jesse. Great to hear from you. I totally agree. I think that they were just like, what do we got to get ready for Comic-Con time frame and, featuring Holly Hunter, Paul Giamatti. You want to make sure that they're prominent because of, their stature as actors. I just came back from Star Trek Las Vegas and people asked some of the Discovery guests about Tilly. They asked a couple of the folks who are directing episodes of Starfleet Academy were there. Jonathan Frakes talked about directing an episode. And they said that, one, there's definitely Tilly in the story, and two, the showrunner is going to try to bring a lot of the Discovery characters potentially, or it's certainly their intention. So it'll be interesting to see, tonally what this show is like. I didn't get that sense from what we saw so far, but until I see a real trailer, I'm not really going to draw too many conclusions yet.
You raise a fair point, Kevin, and I will wait for the trailer too, as I said. But they probably, as you both said, they didn't have a lot of action scenes and special effects ready to go, so they probably just stuck with stuff with the interpersonal stuff, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those. Put a pin in it. It can be very interesting once we do get that traditional trailer to see how much it has changed tone by then, or if it has. All right. We also have a second voicemail from Jesse. And this one, he's talking about the Going Back Tuner Minute.
Feels like every 3 or 4 years I rewatch all of West Wing. Same thing with Sports Night, and other Aaron Sorkin shows. I like to revisit them. I have a desire to rewatch more, but between all the new stuff that I need to watch, and then my stupid podcasting addiction, where I spend way too much time recording podcasts and editing and posting them. I don't get as much time to do rewatches. I think that's one of the reasons why I loved just biting the bullet and, okay, I'm going to watch Stranger Things, and went through all of them. I'm excited about Wednesday coming back, and I'm so tempted to rewatch the whole first season because I remember loving it so much, and I would, you know, and I did the quiz and missed 2 or 3 questions, and I was like, gosh, I want to see this again, but I just don't know if I'll have a chance. So I think a lot of my rewatches is all based on, as you guys kind of said, nostalgia and wanting to relive that. I'm really spending a lot of time. I love Katie Sackhoff's podcast, and I'm like, you know, it'd be fun to rewatch Battlestar Galactica. I know I didn't love the ending, but it would be fun to go back on that journey again. So I just think it all depends on the conflict of, do I go back to something I know is going to be good and re-enjoy it in this nostalgia, or do I try for something new and it could become a brand exciting new favorite show? So, don't know if I really answered you guys, but I love the question and I love thinking about it.
Jesse, you absolutely answered the question because, you know, the idea for this discussion, while kind of kicked off by a listener specifically asking about it in this sense, is one that you know, regular listeners know, we have talked about for years, and how everyone has different styles and how they do it. So yeah, I wouldn't say you talked around it, but you touched on so many different aspects of, is there enough time, you know, based on other hobbies or things we all have? To what degree is it important enough? Are you doing it? Are you rewatching to make sure you understood some plot lines and character interactions? Or is it just the nostalgia of loving a certain show and wanting to rewatch? You know, all of those factor in, and it's such a hard balance. So that was a great answer and a great point. I'm struggling or being challenged with it myself now. I am doing a Stranger Things full series rewatch leading up to the new season. But I did have to limit myself that when I've had to do some other shows I wanted to do, like maybe Wednesday, or like in my case, prepping for some Dragon Con stuff, I've had to go to the YouTube recap side so that I can look at, you know, a season in less than an hour with someone who does a good recap. So it is that balance and you know, trying to find time to filter in some new show that's, you know, been on my, hey, I should be watching that list too, is the challenge of all of it. So appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, Jesse, and it's a great point. You know, if you just keep going back to the old beloved thing, then you might miss out on something new. I mentioned I just came back from a Star Trek convention, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. But one of the things that going to that convention made me want to do was go back and watch Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, thanks again, Jesse. A couple things. One, when you're editing and publishing podcasts, that's when I watch my TV. So I don't know why you're not taking advantage of that time. I know you want to listen to do your editing on the podcast, but you can do both. Come on. And the Battlestar Galactica, I had the same urge. I mean, several years ago, I had an urge to rewatch Battlestar Galactica, like a couple of years after it ended, and I watched it all. But I had the urge recently, like about a year and a half ago or so. And I don't know if this is for you, but one thing that I do to satisfy that urge is I just watch a new reactor to the show. And as they're going through it, I watch their reaction and I remember it all, you know, and I get the same sort of thrill as if I'm watching it again. So that works really well for me. It may not work for you though.
Yeah. And I think very much too, this is a great example of too much of a good thing, in a great way for all of us. We have so many good choices nowadays, wanting to go back, try things we don't have time to watch, and keep up on the ones that are going. So, shall we say, good problems to have. All right, moving in now, we do have some news items to catch up on, a lot of trailers and other things. We're going to let Wendy start on our first one here, talking about a show we watched the first half of. We've got more info about the second half for Wednesday.
Yep, and Wednesday is definitely one of those shows you want to keep up with. We have a couple links to share. First is the part 2 of season 2 official trailer. And one of the cool parts is going to be the return of a character from season 1 that I really enjoyed. And I won't say anything more. Just go watch the trailer. And also there's the official Wocast, the official podcast for the show that's starting up as well. And, obviously they're talking to the cast and getting all the behind the scenes stuff. So that is pretty darn cool though. We don't have too much longer to wait for part 2. It's coming back September 3rd. And, the official Wocast is out now, I believe.
Yeah, it's exciting. I really enjoyed the first 4, so looking really forward to the second 4 in the trailer. It is an exciting tease for what's to come. We'll talk about it in the back porch, but I was worried that the first 4 would end with big cliffhangers. It did, of course, but there were certain things I thought they would leave dragging out, and they resolved, and I was really happy about that. So I'm glad to see this trailer for the next segment, and hopefully they'll do the same in the next segment. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, I thought it was an excellent trailer. And again, I'll just say how much I'm enjoying the fact Netflix is splitting up their releases into like these 2 or 3 chunk sets. Time to watch, maybe rewatch, analyze, before our next set comes. So I think this format certainly works for me on these. And it was a good trailer with just a couple of weeks to go until that's back. And I haven't listened to the podcast. I've seen a couple of the official behind the scenes stuff they're putting up on the Netflix, like YouTube channel for some Wednesday stuff. There's been some fun little stuff here or there too. So loving the fact we get a little more of it. All right. Next up, one show that is returning. We got a trailer for, and that's for Upload. This is the show that's on Amazon Prime, if you're not aware. Season 4, an abbreviated one, is coming on August the 25th. It's a 4-episode one. So it's basically a chance to wrap things up. If you've been a fan watching, as you know, there have been some dangling story bits. It was good that they were, shall we say, renewed or allowed to finish out the story a bit. So I'm looking forward to that. Upload is a show I greatly enjoyed in season 1. Thought it was just funny as all get out. Season 2 and 3 I enjoyed, but not quite as fun. So I'm hoping, the chance to close it out gives us a chance for some really fun stuff. The trailer for it, again, that's what we're talking about here, link in the show notes, does look good. It's got a couple of the spot-on jokes, so I'm hoping it's just going to be a fun way to close out what has been an enjoyable show.
Yep, I'm there with you, Kevin. It started out really funny and kind of off the wall, took itself a little bit more seriously in the next 2, and I'm hoping that they go back to sort of throwing everything at the wall to go into the finish. The trailer looks like they lean into some of the hijinks that I definitely enjoyed.
Yeah, Upload is one of those shows that I've talked about it before. I watched the first season, didn't really click. You guys said it gets better or there are better parts. So I keep having it on my list to catch up, but I still haven't done it. So I'm a little ashamed to say that I still don't know what's going on.
Well, as you can imagine, we'll let you know how it does to see whether or not it might be worth your time to make time for it.
I appreciate that.
All right, we've got another trailer for a new upcoming season for an Apple TV Plus show Wendy's going to tell us about.
Invasion Season 3. I have not seen Invasion yet, but it looks pretty good, so I'd actually like to hear some folks' thoughts about Invasion. And it's coming back very soon. It will be streaming on August 22nd. So the trailer looks pretty good.
Cool. Invasion is one that I have not seen at all. So I don't know if I should watch it or not. Do we know if it's coming back for another season yet, or do we just not know? After 3, I mean.
Yeah, we don't know that.
Okay. I was just wondering if it was like its final season or something. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one either. Based on comments, I believe, on our Discord and some other social circles, this was a real slow starting in the first season, in terms of the idea of this invasion, and it focused way more on just the characters rather than the event. But I've heard that since season 2, it definitely moved into, shall we say, more things happening with the actual alien invasion. So I haven't ruled out maybe giving this one a watch now that I have Apple TV Plus, but it's not high on that list myself either. So like Wendy said, if you are someone watching it, please in our Discord, let us know whether or not it's worth the time. All right. Brent's going to talk a little bit about some challenges with Hulu.
Yeah, I don't think it's challenges. I think the headline could be a little scary to people. But Disney, since Disney now owns all 100% of Hulu, they've owned it for a while now, they're doing away with the Hulu app. They're not, from what I understand, from my scouring the different articles, they're not doing away with the Hulu content. They're just moving all the content that was under Hulu under Disney Plus, which might be good news for Wendy because she can't get back into her Hulu. So we'll talk about that in a second. But so they're going to move all the live TV and all of those things that are Hulu. I'm not clear if they're going to just have it as a section underneath the Disney app or if they're just going to kind of merge it in. Because the Disney app has these sections like Marvel and Star Wars and stuff like that in Disney. Are they going to have another one at the top called Hulu? And is that where everything's going to be? My money would be on that, but we don't know for sure. But in the near future, if you've got the Hulu Disney bundle, there will be no change. You just go to Disney Plus to get all your content. If you only had one of them, like Hulu, it might require you to go sign up with Disney Plus, or maybe your ownership will transfer. I think more news will come out as this gets closer, but it seems inevitable to me. It doesn't seem like a big shock or scary because the one studio owns both platforms and both apps. Why would they maintain two when they could do it a lot cheaper and maintain one?
Yeah, this is one I'm kind of waiting to see how they're going to do it technically, because I have, and Wendy can comment on this, and I heard some folks having some challenges making it work and how they're trying to get people who have both and are using the same email to merge them. But so I am definitely playing the background to wait and let the dust settle on other early adopters here. So I'll wait and see.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I have Hulu on an annual plan that expires in October. I got no notice from anybody that this merger was happening and that it was going to pull the plug on my Hulu app on my Roku. And it gives some very confusing instructions on how to join your accounts. So I've been unable to join my accounts, which means I can't currently access my Hulu through Disney Plus. So I'm not enjoying this merger so far, but hopefully I can get some assistance and get it straightened out soon. It will be nice to have one less place to go, because I do like having things all in one place. And if they're all sitting there under Disney, that's fine with me, as long as I can get in.
Hey, late breaking update too. I decided to just go check, and they've already done the merge. And as you're saying, not just the accounts, Wendy, they've done the Hulu merge, the content merge now. So if you go to Disney Plus.
Yeah, no, I know that because I tried to go to Disney Plus.
Sure.
It's like, do you want to add a Hulu bundle? It's like,
right.
No, I'm already paying for one.
Right, I'm just following up on what I said there where I wasn't sure how they were going to implement it. They've implemented it by putting a Hulu button at the top, just like they did Marvel and Star Wars, like I said. And they have an ESPN one as well, and you can just click on that and see everything you could see on Hulu from Disney Plus. That's pretty cool.
When it works, yes.
Oh, I thought it works. Wendy said she could get into Disney Plus. She just can't get into Hulu.
I cannot get into Hulu. No,
right.
On Disney Plus. I click on that button you're talking about, and it says, oh, you want to add Hulu bundle to Disney Plus?
That sucks. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep us posted, Wendy. Let us know if we need to, get a group together and storm the castle for you.
Yeah, and the Hulu app is still showing on my Roku, and it just says log in through Disney Plus. So it's not the communication hasn't been great about this transition.
Yeah, that sucks because there's a lot of people like me probably. It went completely smoothly for me. I guess I integrated the Hulu and Disney Plus like 2 years ago or whenever it was, a year and a half ago, and it's been flawless for me. So when they just added it here, it just immediately opens up. So unfortunately, there are a lot of people like you who probably didn't do that right away, and now they're being forced to do it, and everything's kind of breaking.
Stay tuned for sure, folks. All right, our next news item relates to the Librarians, the next chapter. As you may be aware from our ratings and discussions, the season 1 just finished up recently, and season 2, this was the show that was already renewed for season 2. And they put out links in the show notes to an actual video casting promo, if you will, of some of the folks we're going to see in season 2, and an actual article, if you prefer it, in more of the written form. But essentially, there's some characters coming back from the first Librarians. And if you don't want to know any of these things, by all means, now's the time to skip ahead a couple of minutes, as well as some new folks coming in. But I won't go through all the names. They are listed in this article, but because I think they said there's like 12 or 15 of them that are folks that have been in other TV shows. Some of the biggest ones certainly catch my attention was Lindy Booth will be coming back from the first Librarian show. Again, I don't know if that's just a single one-off episode or we might see her for more of a storyline. Wait and see. Also, Dominic Monaghan, many of us know from The Lord of the Rings and Lost and other things, is going to be coming in from the look of the teaser to be a nemesis, shall we say, for our gang, to see what's going on there. And several other names from many well-known shows. Take a look in the show notes. I mean, even folks like Josh Gates from, many Expedition Unknown and other shows there. So it looks like they're really stepping things up a notch, certainly in terms of some of the actors will be involved.
Well, that is all very exciting. I haven't been able to watch The Librarians yet. And definitely happy to hear that the actor who played Cassandra is coming back. Hopefully that means some of the other characters from the prior will be coming as well. Maybe even Rebecca Romaine.
That would be kind of a cool cameo or guest appearance if she comes in. But yeah, having Lindy Booth back's great. I really enjoyed her in the first one. Dominic Monaghan playing a recurring bad guy whose name will be very familiar to you. We're not going to spoil you on it. You can look it up if you want, or watch the trailer if you want. But yeah, I did enjoy this revival first season. So looking forward to the next one.
All right. And Wendy's now going to talk a little bit about a chance to get a first look at a Netflix show coming back.
Yeah, One Piece. This is the sort of pirate story. I didn't actually watch it, but we have a link to the season 2, what they're calling the first look, which is full of a lot of action. It looks very similar to what I remember seeing for the previews leading into season 1. And they don't have a specific date. They just say coming in 2026. So hopefully that means January, February of 2026. But check it out.
Yeah, this is another one of these shows that we're talking about in the articles, and we're glad to share them with you, but one I haven't seen. I did not check out One Piece. I don't know anything about the original source material. I saw the trailers, but that's about all I know about it. But, we're trying our best to bring these to you guys, even if we're not watching them.
Yeah, One Piece is one that's on my radar, but like the two of you, I have not seen season 1, but I've heard so many good things, and there's a lot of buzz around it. So it's, as we touched on in a 2-minute discussion a little earlier, it's on that list of me having to find one of those shows, probably come September timeline to actually start to watch so that I don't get further behind on things I think might be interesting. One Piece is one I've heard some good things on, so I guess we'll see. All right, next up, Brent's got a fun one for all of us Star Trek fans.
Yeah, this is a really cool video I'm gonna link to here. We're going to link to in the show notes, but really what I wanted to do is draw your attention to the Otoy YouTube channel and the Roddenberry Archive, which is another YouTube channel. Otoy works in combination with Roddenberry Archive to do a lot of video production, and they do a lot of interviews with people involved in Star Trek, all the way back to the original series, as well as they produce some original content. And they do that by having, you may have seen the video floating around YouTube where you've got Kirk. It's a pretty silent video where there's this older Kirk, who's like essentially, I don't know, he's in heaven or what, but he's walking through these fields and he sees all these old people that he has known, and he ends up with Spock as Spock is dying. I mean, it's a really great thing. And it's all done with some deep fake stuff, as well as some great acting. There's some well-known people behind it. All of the people whose faces are being deep faked are in working, or have agreed to it, have given their blessing to it, and in some cases offered voices for voice work if they actually did some speaking roles, if the characters speak. So it's really great stuff. This particular link is to a video that basically talks about how Star Trek, the original series, came back to TV. It talks about the Phase 2 show and how Roddenberry was planning for that, and it goes through in great detail about how they built up to that, and then it all fell apart, and then it became the motion picture, and they go into great detail interviewing people who were involved in all of this, not only in the original series, but in the whole Phase 2 and the movie production, the motion picture production. So this is only one of several parts of these documentaries they're doing. So if you want to check one out, and this sounds interesting to you, check it out. But look at what else is on the Roddenberry Archive and the Otoy channel. They've got some great stuff.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but with Brent sharing this is one I put on my watch later list for sure, because this looks like some stuff that will be well worth the time to take a look at.
So I got to watch Unification, is the little story you're talking about, where Kirk reunites with Spock, and it was very poignant. And Sam Witwer is actually the actor who did the face digitization. And he studied everything that Shatner did and got his approval basically to do the story itself, which it was very poignant. I don't think there's any dialogue in it. But the Otoy folks and the Roddenberry Archive actually ran a panel talking about this, because this came about because they had to create this de-aging process for the original series actors, and so they're going to explore all kinds of things with it that will be coming soon. And the other thing that the convention had was the Roddenberry Archive had a room set up. It had the bed that Spock was actually lying on in Unification was one of the set pieces there, but it had uniforms. It had this virtual headset you could go on to and go into one of the ships, which I'm forgetting which one it was. It was really cool. I mean, honestly, for me, seeing the costumes up close was probably the most interesting part. I'm very much a tactile person, but it'll be interesting to see where they go in terms of the stories that they choose to tell with this technology available. Yeah,
and I remember Jesse mentioning the Katie Sackhoff podcast, and Katie Sackhoff had Witwer as a guest, and they talked about this, and he talked about excited about all of and they had a third partner, guest as well, who was the partner in this whole face replacement thing, and they're so excited about the potential and the things they can do, that they're not going to do the thing that the motion picture, that the actors and so forth are opposed to, which is the AI stuff where they basically steal your appearance and stuff without your credit. They want to do everything with either the blessing of the actual actor involved or their family. But they have a lot of grand plans that they want to do. It's amazing stuff.
Yeah, that was something that they talked about on the panel a lot, was that, they're relying on the actor to animate the face and the work of the actor to get those nuances into the performance. And they kind of showed the difference between Sam Witwer doing his and an AI generated, and it was definitely notably different.
Cool stuff. All right, next up, I wanted to share a little bit of information. As regular listeners know, Dragon Con is a convention I am very much a big part of every year. Now I think this will be my 20th in-person Dragon Con. And over the years, I've gotten more and more involved, becoming an actual volunteer, the second in charge of the urban fantasy track, and also one of the convention's official guest panel moderators. So I am gearing up for that as we record, about 10 or 11 days away. And just thought I'd give you a quick overview of the schedule for me as it stands now. I know some of you I see there some years. I know Benita is someone that we will see many times at Dragon Con, so I'm hoping the schedules align there. But if you are going to be there or just curious, here are some of the things I will be a panelist or a moderator on. On the fan panel side, we're doing one for Winona Earp Vengeance, because that came out after last Dragon Con. I'm also doing one for the Librarians, the next chapter. We're also doing one about the Buffy revival. Some speculation, what we might want to see based on some of the news we have so far. Looking forward to talking about that, as well as Wednesday, too. And also Arcane. Really looking forward to moderating that one. Some ideas there we're going to do on relationships. And also Severance as well. And also very much honored to be moderating some of the guest panels. Specifically, there are half a dozen guests from the Arrowverse. For David Ramsey, Emily Bent Ricards, who I've been looking forward to meeting for almost 10 years, Brandon Routh, Paul Blackthorne. So I'm really honored to be doing one of their panels. I think it's on Saturday. And also, they recently announced some Buffy guests. So I'm looking forward to doing one there. I believe we have Charisma Carpenter, Emma Caulfield, and Mark Blucas. So very much looking forward to moderating that panel along with attending some other stuff. So very excited. If you do happen to be there, I will be listed in the app being, an official attending professional. So if you search by name, you can find any of the ones I'm at if you want to stop by, or if you're at any of the events I'm involved in, please do take a moment, say hello. I always love to see it when we get a chance to see some listeners there. So looking forward to it. Should be a blast again.
Oh, I'm very sad that I won't be at Dragon Con this year, because I'll be in another country. And, especially because there are going to be some great guests this year, and all the panels you're doing, Kevin, sound really exciting and interesting. And, especially looking forward to the Buffy reboot, but also, seeing some interesting cast members. You didn't mention this because it's probably not in the urban fantasy track, but there's going to be a Bones cast too, which is very interesting. I mean, hopefully David Boreanaz will be dragged into an urban fantasy one too, maybe. That sure would be great. But, yeah, I'm very, very happy that you're going to be there for your 20th. Congratulations. Next year will be my 20th, and I hope to be back.
Congrats, Kevin. And I'm excited that you get to meet some of the actors from the previous shows, both the Arrowverse and Buffyverse, that I would like to meet someday. Thrilled for you.
Thank you. And making some notes here on the panels and questions to ask. As always, it's a lot of fun. My ramp up in August to get ready for that. And yeah, as you said, Wendy, the Bones stuff, they also have several of the folks from The Magicians are coming back, haven't been in many years. Some other pop culture shows beyond just sci-fi and stuff. So yeah, the guest list is this is one of those years where I love the stuff that I do, but I'm sure I'm going to miss seeing some panels that I might want to attend because I have other commitments. That's always the balance of DragCon. How much do I want to be committed to, which can limit my schedule to see some stuff. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. Now, speaking of the awesomeness of cons, as Wendy teased a little earlier, she got a chance to go to a Star Trek convention and is going to share a little info there.
Yeah, because I could not go to Dragon Con this year, I was able to convince some friends who went to Star Trek Las Vegas last year and loved it. So convinced them, a handful, to go this year again. And this is held at the Rio Hotel in Las Vegas, which is not on the Strip. It's also the hotel where Penn and Teller have their theater. So one night we actually went to a Penn and Teller show as well. But this is the hotel that the Star Trek convention by Creation has been held for many years, apparently. It's a very nice convention center for this purpose, for sure. You have assigned seats, and we were in a huge ballroom. For those familiar with Dragon Con, it's probably 3 times the size of the Marriott ballroom. And you have assigned seats, though. So it's a little weird, I think, for the guests sometimes because they walk out and people are sort of scattered all over the place. Because a lot of people who come to this convention are there to do photographs and autographs and stuff. So, it's not like every seat is filled in the front. But it was very fun. And Kevin, you were talking about some of the unusual guests coming. Simon Pegg was at this because he played Scotty in the Kelvin Timeline movies. He's going to be at Dragon Con too, which I'm sure will be huge. They also had the whole cast of Resident Alien, or almost all the cast of Resident Alien doing a panel, which was cool. And as usual, incredibly funny and delightful. The one thing that they do at this convention that I think Dragon Con should figure out a way to adopt is they actually had a band in between the panels, and they would play music that was either thematically relevant to the show or to the actors. So it was a lot of fun because almost all the guests would come out dancing or doing something, wanting to play with the band. It was a really nice way to transition from one panel to the next. The other thing that they did was, of course, there's people in Star Trek costumes, and some of the really good cosplays were actually escorting the guests out to the panels, which was also really fun. The format is very, very similar to Dragon Con, and I had been texting with Kevin while I was gone, and I mentioned it was like as if you went to Dragon Con but only stayed in the Star Trek track, although much, much bigger in terms of the number of people. Super fun. People are very creative with their costumes, and they're also very meticulous with the costumes when it comes to like their uniforms and things. And I have to admit, I did buy a whole bunch of Star Trek related clothing and deltas and other things that I was not planning to. But also, it was the 30th anniversary of Voyager, so they had the entire cast of Voyager that are people, all the cast that's still living. That was incredibly fun and hilarious to see them all interacting, and they were great. Got to see William Shatner and Scott Bakula. The Strange New Worlds cast was there. Paul Wesley talked about some of the episodes we're going to talk about in the back porch, and playing in the Holoduck episode, the parody version of the original series that Jonathan Frakes directed that episode. He talked about directing it as well. So it was a great time to go to a Star Trek convention, and next year is the 60th anniversary, so I might be going back one more time.
Yeah, it sounds like this would be the time, though, because, you even mentioned some of the actors had passed, but there'd probably even be a couple more passing by the time they can do another big one like this. So it sounded amazing and exciting. The band between the panels sounded pretty cool. I know that the Trek Culture YouTube channel that I mentioned before, they had a couple of people that were there, and they did some shows on their YouTube channel where they talked about it, and they were very, very excited about it too. I thought it was just a wonderful thing. The Voyager cast, that sounded great. It's probably my favorite of the the revival Star Treks, not the more current ones, but the revival Star Treks, TNG and DS9 and Voyager and all that. Probably my favorite of them. So really great to hear that they all got together. And it would have been fun to see.
Yeah, that's just, this is why if I ever, hit that lottery and have more money, man, some of these other conventions, just a ton of great stuff, like you said, Wendy. And obviously Star Trek is at the core, but even things like Resident Alien or some of the actors that were only in a movie or two or in one series there, but they're related to it and they're doing other things. So you get to see them there too. So yeah, this sounds like it would have been a total blast.
Yeah, so one of the things they had was Westmore, the special effects makeup people who they actually had a talk. So they had the father, his son, and then they had a makeup artist who was actually putting on Nana Vistor's nose for her to do photo ops as a Bajoran with the nose with people. And that was so fascinating. There's going to be a documentary about them, because he's just, legendary in terms of the things that he invented, and he was telling wonderful stories about making things for Star Trek, but also for things like Raging Bull and stuff. So it was really, really fascinating. And there was panels with sort of the actors who played aliens, actors who were recurring. They had the two actors who played the very popular Vulcans on, I think it was Deep Space Nine. So it was a lot of really interesting people, some who had never been to a convention before. So it was a lot of fun. And like I said, hopefully Patrick Stewart will be there next year for the 60th. And maybe I'll be there too.
Awesome. All right. Well, if you're expecting us to have Brent talk about his convention, you definitely don't know Brent. But we will let him finish out here on talking about something he does know very well, which is YouTube, and it's something we should all be aware of.
Yeah, all my conventions are virtual. Didn't you know? But I have a link here to, I've been trying to introduce you folks through the years to a bunch of different YouTube concepts and channels. And this one is, if you haven't seen it already, Ryan George. Now, Ryan George did those pitch meeting videos. You've probably seen one or two. They're really recommended. The algorithm loves them and recommends them to people, where it's like he plays all the different characters, like a producer and a writer and a studio head and all this stuff. And they go back and forth about a show, and they just make fun of it, basically, or a movie, make fun of it in the form of a pitch meeting. But he has his own channel, separate from the pitch meeting stuff, and he does a lot of funny little skits and also some other stuff that is all humorous. But this one is a video that I thought would be a great segue into this community, because it's a video entitled "Your Friend Who Overhypes TV Shows." And the thumbnail says something like, "It gets really good after season 3" or something like that. And if you watch this, it is just so perfect, because it's so much like conversations we have amongst ourselves, all the different tuners and fans of the genre, where we try to tell somebody, no, this show is really good. I know the first few episodes are boring or really slow, and you got to like plod your way through it, or maybe fast forward through them, but it gets really good. You know, it's that to the extreme. We have so many great jokes that that are just exaggerations of things we've all heard. So check it out. Ryan George is super funny. He's a Canadian guy, does it all by himself. Well, he has an editor now, but he basically does it all by himself, plays all the characters. And it's just absolutely humorous and hilarious.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one, but this was another one where when Brent shared, in our doc things to look at, as soon as I pulled it up and saw the concept, I'm like, oh, that's going right to the top of the watch list. I got to check this one out. So looking forward to seeing this one. It sounds like a lot of fun.
I am looking forward to this. It sounds like a lot of our conversations. So I think he will fit right in. I will definitely add it to the watch list.
All right, then, finishing out the water cooler, we have a Tuner Minute. This one is one recorded by Wendy, and it's entitled The Sweet Spot.
I was at a convention recently where former cast members from genre shows were talking about the days of 22 or more episodes a season, filmed over 2 weeks per episode, and how that pattern created an audience connection that is likely lost on many young viewers today. Some could argue that grueling pace meant episodes varied a lot in quality or had a lot of filler episodes that weren't all that good. And the special effects were not the highlight focus of the show given the limited time and budget. But what about the trends now on streaming for just 6 episodes or 8 in a season and then 2 years before the next one? It can take much longer than the season breaks we used to know between spring and fall due to the long post-production to create all those nifty special effects. Is there a sweet spot, though, that we might land in the future? Are you willing to forego a minute or two of special effects for longer seasons or less time between them? What are your thoughts on how many episodes are too much, too little, or come too late? Is there a sweet spot for you of the number of episodes and timing between seasons that would balance out?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd forgo special effects or things, and I don't know that the special effects are really the reason why our short episode seasons take so long between seasons. I think it's more about budgeting and recently a lot about strikes and things like that and real world, pandemics and stuff. But I think if I had to say, I don't want to go back to 22 episode seasons. I don't. I grew up on it. So some of my favorite shows had those sorts of seasons as they did for you as well. Most of our audience as well. I don't think I want to go back to it because there was a little too much dragginess to it. And I already get annoyed when I have a 12 episode season or a 10 episode season that has draggy episodes in it. So I don't want to go back to even more. I think if I had my preference, and this might be new for me to ever say on the podcast, but I think I would go with either 10 or 12 episodes. And if it was 10 episodes, I want it in 2 5-episode drops, like a month apart. If it's 12, I want it in 3 4-episode drops with about 2 weeks or a month apart in each one of those sections. And then I don't want more than a year to go by. I want exactly 1 year from when the last episode drops. 1 year from when the first episode drops of one season to when the first episode drops of the next season. Please, if I have my way, that's what I would like. That's it. That's what I want. And no, like I said, I don't want to forego any special effects or anything like that. But I don't think you need to. I think they can do it. It's just a matter of committing to it.
Yeah, see, for me, it's interesting thinking this through because of the different factors that would impact that sweet spot for the, initially 10 to 13 episodes, it makes me think for a show I enjoy, there's going to be enough good content, enough good, well-written stuff, and maybe an occasional, one-off episode or side story or something like that without, having filler that's not worth it. Again, filler sometimes is okay, but a lot of times it's true fluff filter. So, probably 10 to 13. But again, I'd be willing to put up with less episodes if they were back quicker between seasons, as Brent pointed out. Anything more than a year, I'm sorry, part of it is definitely my age now, but man, I can't remember that stuff. Even if I don't do a rewatch, I'm going to have to go through some type of a recap, whether video or written, to remember stuff if it's more than a year at this point in my life. So that would be a balance. If you tell me, okay, Kev, you can have it in a year, but you're only getting 8 episodes. Okay, I'm okay. If you're telling me you're going to get 13, you got to wait 2 years. That's going to impact where I'm going to put the comfort level at. As far as if it truly is, as Brent pointed out, time for post-production things, special effects, shall we say. Again, I'm the guy who grew up and fell in love with science fiction watching, TOS. I can put up with, I love B movies. I don't need quality special effects. Not that I don't enjoy it, not that I don't appreciate it, but I don't need the ooh-ah for me to really enjoy a show if you've got some good writing on there. So I wouldn't want to lose time just for higher level special effects on any pick of number of episodes.
So I'm in complete agreement about the 1 year max between seasons, or, maybe 15 months, but no more than that for sure. And for season length, I think between 8 and 13, depending on the kind of show it is a good target for, if it's a 30-minute show, I'd probably lean more towards 12 or 13 episodes in a season, for instance. During watching one of the Foundation recent behind the scenes, one of the showrunners talked about how it takes 1 whole year for them to do all of the post-production of Foundation, which is a very special effects heavy show. And in the case of that show, I don't think you would want to compromise that because that's one of its goals. Jonathan Frakes talked about how now that they use technology similar to what we call the Disney volume that was used on The Mandalorian, but they're using it now in the Star Trek series. He talked about the requirement of knowing what has to be displayed onto that screen when they're actually going to do the shooting and how important that is, and plotting things out to that level, during the production, and then still having work post-production. And to me, it's like, well, if you have to cut even 30 seconds of special effects battle from some things, if it means something's going to come back 2 months earlier, I think I'd be okay with that. And we had another example. It was actually one of the producers of Resident Alien was talking about the effects of certain choices that were made that in hindsight he would have made a different choice. And there's a moment in one of the very first episodes where they spent a ton of time because they were trying to show the Harry character as the alien and then seeing himself as the human. And it took a very, very long time. And he's like, in hindsight, he's like, I don't know that we needed to put everyone through that. And they were trying to recreate to some extent that scene in later seasons. And they're like, well, we're not wasting all that time this time. We have to come up with compromises that will just evoke people's memory of it from the past, but we're not trying to match it shot for shot because they recognize that it just wasn't worth the time. And I'm going to be curious if we see that happen in the future where, with the power of, more technology, if that will, one, shorten the time between seasons, or two, improve the editing process so that, maybe we have enough money to make, 8 or 10 or 12 episodes in a season.
Yep. There's so many different components to find in that sweet spot. So we're sure you folks have thoughts. Please, whatever method, be it Discord or dropping us a voicemail or an email, let us know your thoughts. We'd love to have more to talk on there. All right. That'll finish us up in the water cooler. We're going to move over to our back porch.
Today we talk about Foundation, The Librarians, The Next Chapter, Alien Earth, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Revival, Wednesday, and Resident Alien.
All right. Back porch time, folks. We got something I just realized here. We are listed to talk about every show that we quick reviewed, so this could be a long one. But we'll try to be on point for you folks as far as our discussions. But kicking us off, first off, we're going to talk about recent episodes of Foundation and let Wendy lead that off.
Yeah, and in the interest of time, I'm not going to talk through the plot of these episodes, but just point out, for me, this whole season has been really interesting because we have very different versions of the Cleons and their relationship with Demerzel. We have a very different power dynamic because even though Foundation and Empire are adversaries, they kind of have this common goal of addressing the timeline. And we have our Cleons on really different paths compared to prior versions of them. Day is gone completely MIA, and, he's definitely like the dude Day. And once he gets to Mycogen and he wants to find his lover, he's really faced with the reality of his abuse of power, and how, his fantasy about this woman is completely shattered. And he goes through quite a bit to get there, to find her, only to learn that she doesn't want her memories back. She's in a committed relationship with someone else and, pretty much hates Empire and does not in any way intend to fit in with his plan. And then we also have Dawn, who is trying to do the right thing, and he understands the threat of the mule. He joins up with Gail, which is a very interesting dynamic because we actually hear her talking about her use or abuse of her persuasion psychic abilities. Eventually he is betrayed by her because, she convinces him to go to the council, get them to go to Calgon, and the mule is able to easily overtake the mines and destroy pretty much most of the fleet. And that ends up spacing Day. So Demerzel's got problems on two fronts. Her MIA Day, and her dead Dawn. So she goes and confronts Gale about what's going on. And apparently Harry Seldon knew that Demerzel was a robot right from the jump, never told Gale. And there's a very cool scene where Demerzel basically mind embraces with Gale to kind of understand what's coming, and what's coming seems to be a black hole, which is pretty ominous. And then we have the mule, and we have yet to understand if Magnifico is a tool of the mule or if it might be the other way around, because his magic box seems to amplify the mule's powers. Maybe it's the source of the mule's powers. It's unclear. And it's very bad because now they end up going to see the opening of the vault, and the Harry Seldon inside there has no clue who the mule is, and quickly escapes, kind of leaving the Foundation folks scrambling as the mule is coming for them as well. And we're in a really interesting place going into those last couple episodes. I really have no idea if we're going to avert the third crisis or not. It's been a very compelling story all the way along for me. And some of the characters are really interesting. The descendants of Hober Mallow, the traders, have been more interesting than I expected.
Yeah, as you said, they're doing a good job of building up to this big confrontation, from the main powers that be. But they're also, for me, I think doing a really good job for a very high concept sci-fi show, a show with a lot of characters, of keeping me engaged, of not having scenes where it's like, okay, I can fast forward through this because I don't care about this character. They're doing a good job moving between scenes that even if it isn't the characters I'm most interested in, I don't feel like I have to skip past it. Something happens, something's going on, they look at it. So it's doing a good job of bringing this all together. But as you said, the big thing was the whole confrontation between Demerzel and Gale. I mean, Demerzel showing up in space and her, and just by almost like knocking on the door, if you will, in space, just showing up in the airlock. And like, oh, hey, haven't seen you in like 300 years. You're looking good. And then
yes.
really breaking it down of, hey, I need to know what's going on here. And the fact that Gale has used her skill sets to, totally play Dawn. And try to set things up for a way to have both Empire and the Foundation come out ahead of the Mule. But that may not be possible based on the fact the Mule has so much more ability to pull in and already be bombing them out. So it's interesting. It's big stuff in lots of directions, but it's also not getting lost. And I have to credit them on that for especially high concept sci-fi and something, as you said, that's got, major dollars spent on the visual effects. So sometimes you can get a show like that where it's just like your eyes roll back in your head like, yeah, it's wicked cool, but, give me to some characters I care about. But they got plenty of them happening here. So I'm very pleased. Again, kudos to Wendy and to folks like Scott and others on our Discord who were like, no, Kev, you really should come back now that you got Apple TV Plus to Foundation. And I'm so glad I did because this is really excellent stuff. And as you said, we've got, I think 3 or 4 episodes left. And it's going to be big, big, big happenings.
Yeah, and it really does feel like none of the characters know what's coming. They're all, the tension is very high amongst all of the characters.
Absolutely. All right, moving on next, I'm going to lead our conversation for the librarians, the next chapter. Not so much focused on these last 2 episodes. Maybe Brent will have some specific thoughts, but just kind of my thoughts on the season. We talked a few weeks back at that point about this show. I know on our Discord, we have some folks who are very pleased with this show. Some who even think it's already better than the original. I'm not sure myself I'd go to that degree, but I am very pleased, as we talked leading up to this from trailers and articles like, I don't know, this is a show we really enjoyed. Can it even be in the same league? And to their credit, I think they've done a good job. Very much so with the dynamic of the characters. The relationships we've got here, from Vikram to Charlie to everybody else, I think is working very well. Some of the stories this season I thought were just kind of okay, and some were really good. So story-wise, a little ups and downs. The villain didn't really work well for me this first season, but that's okay. I mean, we had our I don't want to say the topic of the week or things like that. I mean, that was the nature oftentimes with this, the item that they had to deal with, but it was a good season in that sense. And I think they really, as the season went on, the characters, as often happens in many of our shows, people, both the writers and the actors kind of have to find that character. And I think that was what happened in the first season of the show. It definitely was better in the latter portion than in the early portion as far as some of that dynamic. As I said, some of the story items, some were very interesting, the artifact of the week, if you will, and some were just okay. But I was very interested in what was happening with all of the team. So the fact that, as we talked in a news item earlier in the podcast, they're bringing in several, actors that folks will recognize from other shows. That's a great sign to see that you've got some momentum going. And it doesn't look like it's going to be that long. I think they said it's coming in 2026, whether that's January or December, we don't know yet. But again, it won't be long between the seasons, so that's a good thing. So again, looking at the whole season, definitely a solid thumbs up.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm not I'm not going to say it's better than the original. I don't think it is. I'm with you there, Kevin. But I do think it's pretty much on par with. And the librarians, the next chapter, and the librarians for that matter, has always for me been good kind of popcorn entertainment. It's nothing spectacular, nothing that's going to make your jaw drop, but it's also not boring. It's you can be sure you're going to tune in and be entertained, and that's how I felt about this entire season. So, yeah, I enjoyed the characters. I was a little unsure in the very beginning. I mean, they were replacing all of our favorite characters with new ones, and I think they did a pretty good job because I ended up at the end actually liking the characters, all of them, and liking at least. Liking the story week to week. I'm not sure about the overall arc yet. I guess we'll find out more next season since it is kind of spilling over into next season. But no, I thought it was pretty good.
All right. Next show we want to talk about was the opening 2 episodes for Alien Earth. And we're going to let Brent lead that.
Yeah, I mentioned in the quick reviews, I wasn't sure if I was going to like this because I like the Alien movies to some degree. But I could adapting to TV, I'm always a little nervous when they do that sort of thing. But I really dug this. Now, I know a lot of people on our Discord and other places have been kind of questioning the central cast, if you will, of characters, the children, the dying children who are put into these, what they call the hybrid bodies now, which are synth bodies that have human downloaded brains in them. Some people are a little unsure about that, but I thought it worked. I thought it worked really well, and I really, really hooked on to this lead character, who called herself Wendy, as named after the Peter Pan character, because as she was being transitioned into the synth body, the genius kid or whatever who's in charge of this company that is doing this, showed a Peter Pan cartoon up on the ceiling. And she calls herself Wendy, and all the kids got to pick different names, and they have some pretty weird names. But I thought it worked really well because I really felt for her character, for the story of her character, how, her father was told she was dying, but this young genius said he could help her, but he had to promise the father had to promise he couldn't say anything about it, and all of that. And apparently the father may have even known that she didn't actually die. In a sense, she did. Her body died, but her consciousness, her memories, everything lived on. But the brother, who's the only member left of the family, he thinks his sister's dead. All of that. It was it's a compelling story. And at the end of the second episode, when he finally does, she finally does find him, the brother. I thought it was going to be either drawn out, or I didn't know how it was going to go down. And I really dug it. I got emotional, when he was asking her the questions, and then he just went in and hugged her. And I got emotional. It was just really, really well done. But the whole story, the premise, is also kind of exciting. It's taking place a couple years before the Alien movie, and there's this ship that's populated with a whole bunch of different, very dangerous species from various worlds that they've been collecting, including, of course, a xenomorph and a couple of facehuggers. So we've got this really dramatic thing going on, and we've got this kind of intrigue with the one member of the crew who's a cyborg, which is one of the three types of augmented people, I guess, that the intro told us are in competition to see who's going to win. There's the pure synths. There's this hybrid that's being created that are the main characters of this show, and then there are the cyborgs. This guy's a cyborg, and he essentially effectively kills the rest of the crew of the ship. And it looks like he intentionally crash lands it. I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, but I think it was. But it ends up crash landing into the competing companies, one of their strongholds, one of their cities, and the whole intrigue part is really crazy too. But the effects are very well done, but it's not overly effecty. It does get kind of gross from time to time, but I think it works. I don't think it's too much. And like I said, I really have attached myself to at least the lead character, Wendy. I've attached myself to her. And I cannot wait to see where this goes. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's interesting. I understand some of the concerns folks are raising. I'm also appreciating, much like with Foundation, a sci-fi TV show that is just being done at almost a cinematic level from the visuals. And the shots they're choosing, the camera angles, the tension, as you said, the gross out factor with a couple of the creatures and what happens to a couple soldiers. The idea that this ship has crashed and that the soldiers they send in have no idea of how lethal these creatures are, that they're even there for the most part. So, you're seeing some poor folks just getting killed left and right because they have no idea what's going on. So there's a lot of things happening. I think what's going to make me truly either love the show or just kind of like it is going to depend as it plays out from here, how Wendy and the team, because they're going to have to keep looking for these creatures as they get out of the ship and so forth, how that dynamic goes. Because yes, some of those quote unquote kids who are in these bodies now, Wendy's got some ability to truly understand what's going on. And obviously her motivation was to see her brother, make sure he was safe. Some of the other kids have no attachment. They literally are just as soon be playing video games. So the fact they're out dealing with life and death, that could get weird, depending upon how they deal with it going forward. So I'm impressed by what it is. It's not super fast moving because obviously the first couple of episodes had to establish the universe, the characters and all. But I'm very intrigued by what it could be. So a lot will depend where it goes. I know this is a very high concept that took years to bring to the screen. So, it will be interesting to see how they're able to stick to that narrative. And if they, if Wendy stays out in front as the main character, which it looks like will be the case, watching her mature and understand what's going on and balance that with protecting other folks could be really fascinating.
Yeah, I hear you on the slow part, but you know what? What struck me as very interesting with this, Kevin, and why one of the reasons why I said I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, I figured it would be really slow too. I never felt the need to fast forward. I was engaged. This is very rare for me. I tend to watch new shows by having them on a second monitor and doing other work, but this one, I just couldn't look away. I just kept watching it, and I never felt like I needed to skip it.
Well, yeah, and they did a good job there because you wanted to know exactly the interrelationships of these people, the setup of the corporations, as we said, when the ship is owned by one, there's like 3 or 4, I think, or 5 corporations in the world now. They rule everything. So the ship was owned by one of them, but it crash landed on another one's property.
Mm-hmm.
So there's certain rights of who can do what. I mean, that's not exactly exciting sci-fi stuff, but it's very important to the story. So when there were CEOs, quibbling with each other, that's part of what you need to know what was going to happen. Meanwhile, Wendy's trying to just go save her brother. And to his credit, that poor guy, he's just, he's a medic. He's used to going out and dealing with trauma and with soldiers. And not only that, now he's trying to do this on a ship that's got xenomorphs and other creatures that are killing people left and right. And oh, by the way, your dead sister is now in another body. So, I mean, he did a pretty good job dealing with it all. So I'm hoping he stays as a part of it, because I think that could be fascinating. It's just the human being who's just doing his best.
Yeah. And to be totally fair to the show, I hate shows that just dwell on politics and intrigue and stuff. This show, like you mentioned, the CEOs, that was like a 1 minute scene out of all 2 episodes. It was hardly anything. It was like a blink and you missed it. And I'm fine with that. I know it has to take place, and I'm fine with it being as small as it is. This show is focusing on the hybrids, Wendy and the crew, and the ship full of aliens right now. And I'm cool with that. That sounds exciting. And second reason Wendy, our co-host Wendy, might want to watch this is not only did they name a character after her, but Timothy Oliphant, which I believe Wendy likes, is playing a lead synth.
And he was all kinds of creepy.
Yeah, I will just jump in here. I fully intended to watch the show. It was because of reasons that I couldn't. But I fully planned. I fully planned to watch the show, and I was aware that Timothy Oliphant was in it. It was funny because when I read the character's name was Wendy, I was like, oh, that's cool. There's rarely a character named Wendy. And then they tied in the whole Peter Pan thing. I was like, darn it. That stupid Peter Pan.
They didn't name it after you, and they named it after the Peter Pan character. No, just kidding.
Well, I'm named after that character. I know. And when I was a child, I was like, why don't you name me after a real person? Because the only Wendy's I knew was Wendy from Peter Pan and Wendy from Casper the Friendly Ghost.
And the restaurant chain.
And yeah, that didn't exist when I was a kid. So I was like, oh, it's a unique Wendy. And then I was like, oh, no, it's Peter Pan again. But I do plan to watch it.
Well, hopefully you can get your Hulu straightened out so you don't get too many episodes behind. All right, staying in space. We're going to move now to talk about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and we'll let our Wendy talk about that.
Yeah, so I guess there was some disagreement about the holodeck episode, but at first I did not love that Lon chose a detective story because Picard was constantly doing the detective thing with Guinan in Next Generation, but I did like her Carmen Sandiego outfit, and I loved what they did with the TV show cast that was around this murder. Rebecca Romaine playing Lucille Ball, and the speech that Uhura gives, which was a very Roddenberry speech about the purpose of the show. Anson Mount sort of channeling Elliot Gould and Gene Roddenberry. Paul Wesley as the actor who plays the Kirk-like captain. All of the stuff when they were actually on the show was, I thought, very funny. And Jonathan Frakes directed this episode. He talked about how they really did want to lean into, there wasn't too far to go. I didn't think it was, denigrating or in any way taking shots. I thought it was a fun parody of, B movie type space, as well as Star Trek. The multi-phase world episode where they paired off everybody, that was good, not great. I'm glad that we're kind of moving on beyond Spock and Nurse Chapel. And hopefully we'll have a little bit less of all the pairings. And the most recent episode I thought was just great. I loved that once the Farragut ran into problems and the Enterprise crew boarded, that we ended up on the Farragut with the original series crew all together. Lon went back to the Enterprise, and I loved how they came up with the solutions that they did in terms of using, quote, landlines for communication. The ship itself, that was the Nemesis ship, was very interesting. It was the least Borgiest, like, pirate ship ever. And the solutions for what they did to detach and how they worked together were great. That it was Kirk's first time in temporary command as the captain, and he really wasn't ready for it. And some of his traits set him at odds with the crew. They kind of lost confidence in him. It was Spock who went to give him the talk. But it was nice that Uhura convinced everyone that, they needed to rally around him and help him out, because he had done that for her in the past. So she knew that he had it in him. He just wasn't finding it. So I liked how there was a lot of character moments in this story, but there was also just a lot of, typical solving the problem of the week on the ship type stuff happening as well. And like I said, I loved the stuff with the telephones. That was hilarious. And then, having the realization that this crew was, had taken aboard these humans who had left Earth several hundred years ago, and they had turned into, these raiders, basically. And they were just these brutal, devouring, opponents. And there was a great discussion at the end between Pike with Kirk, as he's kind of debriefing, and he's talking about how you always have to have some level of compassion for whoever you are perceiving in the moment as your enemy. It was, I thought, a very great example of how this show continues on the threads from the original series.
Yeah, a big fan of the last one too. I'll talk briefly. I didn't give a great rating to the first one. And I think, in all honesty, I didn't like any. I've never liked the holodeck episodes, even in TNG. I was never a big fan of those. So when we had this one, and it was mostly the holodeck episode, and more importantly, they had this running thread of this whole La'an is suddenly got the hots for Spock, and I'm like, no, please no. And then they end with that, with them kind of becoming a couple, and I'm like, oh, come on. And then in the second episode, while it was an interesting episode and it was better than I thought the first one, they still had tons of that relationship stuff. They beamed down in the away team the three couples on the ship. I mean, heck, how more blatant can you be that they're going to be talking about or dealing with these relationships? And that kind of made me roll my eyes again, which detracted from an otherwise good science fiction story, with this whole, altered dimension thing in this tomb, essentially. And then what happened back on the ship with that poor nurse getting possessed, getting killed and possessed, by this essentially demon. And then what the heck's going on with Pike's, captain, girlfriend, where her, Gorn DNA just like freaks out seeing this thing. I don't know. I hope they talk about more of that, and I'm sure they will. But this last episode, yeah, very Star Trek, very TOS. I loved it. You've got a big bad threat. You've got ships in distress. You've got a nacelle separation, essentially a saucer separation taking place, that Kirk does to try to, and successfully does, temporarily disable the enemy vessel. And you're right, that talk at the end where he's like, this whole time they were just a threat. They were just monsters. I never thought of them as people. When we find out that they're really people, and I'd love to hear more background of that. How they could do a whole shoe, Ed Sullivan suddenly, whole show about this crew of this ship that went off before they were, were in pre-warp technology, and then obviously something happened. They ended up becoming kind of proto-Borg almost, latching onto other technologies to survive and consuming things. And what was going through their heads? They weren't complete monsters though, because inside the spacesuit, he looked like a totally nice, healthy human. I don't know about nice, but healthy human. And also when he saw Pike's face, he realized he was a human, and he didn't shoot him, and he went off and tried to get away and ended up dying. So, there was some humanity still there. So gosh, that's a great story. I wish could be pursued somehow, but still, it was a wonderful episode. Just loved it.
Yeah, see, and for me, what I love, stepping back and looking at this, the two of you have done a great job talking about some of the stories that were in the 3 episodes, is the fact that this show could do these 3 radically different stories. And I was engaged in enjoying all 3 for different reasons. And it all worked for me, very much so. Holodeck, I thought, was fun, quirky approach to things. Didn't have a problem with it at all. It was fun seeing our actors take on these different roles, the show within a show, and Scotty being totally in over his head trying to figure it out. Just great, fun stuff there. The couples episode, if you will, or that approach to those, not a big fan of it being that as the away team, but that was okay because it didn't, to me, detract from what was happening. I saw it was a part of it, okay, but bigger was what are these things, why are they here, and what the impact was. And then, as you said, the episode 6 was very much like the opening episode of the season. Edge of your seat the whole time, TOS inspired, what's going to happen, we're all doomed, got to come up with a great idea, and they find a way to do it. So just appreciating how this show can do such varying topics, key characters in one episode or in the background in the next, and so forth. So loved it all.
Yeah, one other thing that I love about this season is number 1, because pretty much like in almost every episode, she has a moment where she's coaching one of the crew about something. You talked about, when she tells Scotty, you need to ask for help, or when Ortegas, she was like, you're being reckless and you were insubordinate, and gets her, sort of gets through to her. That's been fun for me this season as well.
All right. In this mega back porch area, we're moving on now to talk a little bit about Revival. We had the last 3 episodes of season 1. For those that have asked, we do not know if this show is coming back. So far, mum has been the word, meaning nothing's come out of Sci-Fi Channel on this. The showrunners I have seen on social media, some folks have been asking, have said that, they're trying to get answers. So, that's not a great sign, but it's not dead yet. So whether or not there's going to be more Revival, we don't know yet. So stay tuned there. But as far as season 1, finishing us out here with the big mysteries of what's been going on, this has been an interesting watch for me. And that's why I've been trying to pay attention to some other folks' thoughts. As many of you know, with Melanie Scrofano being the lead, that was the reason why I was totally on board to see what she would be doing here. But I was not impressed with this show, especially about halfway through the first season, because I think I was expecting something else, very honestly. I was kind of hoping with this mystery and these Revival folks, this was going to be a story about Melanie's character and her sister and her father, who's a big pig-headed head of the police, and some of the other quirky characters, meaning we were going to see a character-focused story of how they were dealing with this fact of these people that basically had come back to life. What's the impact of that? Discrimination against them, how they integrate again, and so forth. And this show very much turned into almost the Russian doll situation, a mystery within another mystery. And, here's one out of left field, including in the finale when we bring this guy who's been a totally background character for 9.5 episodes to be the key to what's going on all season. So while I won't say I dislike this show, it just seemed like it was all over the map with what it was doing. But maybe I should have been expecting a mystery going in instead of more of a character-based set of stories. So it was okay for me. I kind of hoped it would be more. I hope it comes back, but if it's just going to keep throwing a new mystery of the week at us, that's not the kind of show I wanted. So it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it doesn't line up with what I would expect. But this is just one guy's opinion. So, Brent, what do you got?
Well, I'm kind of there with you. I went into this show saying over and over again on the podcast, we've seen this premise. We've seen this premise of people coming back from the dead. Now, yeah, they threw a little bit of a loop into it for us, a little bit of wrench into the works, whatever you want to call it, loop for us. Threw us for a loop. That's what the expression I was trying to come up with the whole, is this a demon, an alien? What is this thing that they like summoned through magic or so? I'm not quite sure what happened on that. Although we saw that creature a couple of episodes back, so it wasn't like a final episode surprise. But they threw that in there, which is a little bit different. Having, some of the people coming back having these powers, that was done before, nothing new there. So I'm still watching this and I'm thinking to myself, what is so original about this show that's got me going? It's not so much the characters, because I'm not really identifying with any of the characters. They're okay. They're not bad. They're okay characters. There were some twists that I enjoyed, like the kind of almost comic relief cop who's like the guy in the office that goes out and is like the partner and stuff. Him turning out to be a bad guy and trying to kill our hero and her having to kill him. That was a nice twist, things like that. But overall, I didn't think it was anything great. I'm kind of right there with you. It's like, if this doesn't get renewed, I'm not going to feel like I've been cheated. If it is renewed, I'll probably keep watching the second season to kind of see where they go with it. But it's an okay show. It's not even one of those, like, for librarians, when I say it's like popcorn entertainment, where I get entertained every time I watch it. I get excited to watch it just because I like to get entertained. But it's nothing major like with librarians. This one is more of a, I guess that's on. I guess I should watch that, and see where they're going with it.
Yeah, and very much for me, I want to support Mel in anything she's in, whether it's Star Trek or this one. And I thought she was excellent, and I'm interested in some of the other characters. Her sister obviously has got these odd powers, but again, yeah, throwing in these creatures and all these additional mysteries and these other parts, it's I don't know. It wasn't what I was expecting or that I found to be my kind of show. But so it's like I'm almost apologizing for not being more positive about it. But, wait to see. I mean, at this point, the Sci-Fi Channel, this is the only scripted Sci-Fi Channel show that's still, quote, on. They've canceled everything else they had. So, maybe they're going to look at this from a business point of view and say it's the only one we got, so let's bring it back. Or maybe they've got bosses who are going to totally rebrand what the channel, the cable channel is nowadays. So they won't bring it back, but maybe they'll let it go to another network or something, a little bit like what Resident Alien did, where it moved to be co-sci-fi and the other one that I'm already forgetting about, USA. So, yeah. Yeah, thank you. So I don't know. Yeah, so it's kind of like you said, it's, if it comes back, yay. If it doesn't, okay, move on. All right, next up, we're definitely going to be, I think, a lot more positive talking about the first half of Wednesday season 2, and Brent's kicking us off.
Yeah, I watched this in one big chunk. Actually, I watched half of the 3/4 of the first episode about, right when it dropped. And then I got distracted and I watched them all again just recently. And I thought it was Wednesday of old. I was really excited for it, and I wasn't disappointed. Jenna Ortega continues to do a great job. All the characters around her are doing wonderful. The actors are doing wonderful. The characters are still entertaining and exciting. The only nitpick I would have with this, I don't know if anybody else sensed this, is when she was chasing the avian, and then she determined, aha, it's you, the psychiatrist. And then we see that the music teacher who, by the way, I did not notice was Billy Piper until the final episode. So, I mean, I should give up my cred already. But when we see the music instructor has birds in cages, and they make a point of showing that, I'm like, oh no, it's going to turn out to be the teacher or, the staff member. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is the whole premise of Wednesday season 1. What's going on? Why are they doing it again? And then, of course, they do throw a little bit of a twist in, and it's not. It's this other character who seemed like, almost comic relief in a sense, but actually was the real bad guy. But I did enjoy every aspect of it. I actually enjoyed having her family more involved. I know I've heard some criticism about Pugsley and getting a little too much attention. I don't think he did. I kind of looked at it, and Wednesday had the majority, most of the attention in the 4 episodes. His story wasn't boring to me. I never felt a need to skip any of it, so I enjoyed the little zombie side story that he was doing with his friends, which were some of the friends that even Wednesday had in the previous, or at least one of them was a friend that Wednesday had in the previous season. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed having the deeper story between Wednesday and her mother. That was cool. The father, he's comic relief, in my opinion. So, it was great to see Things back, of course. Great to see Fester. Loved Fester. He was great in the final episode, coming back as well. And I love his adventures in the insane asylum, where he thinks that the lunch lady is the one he's looking for, and it turns out to be somebody else. And he's like, oh, well, and he starts making out with her anyway. It's all great stuff. And the finale and how it ended, I mentioned in the quick reviews, or I think it was the quick reviews, where I thought that maybe it was going to end with dangling threads, lots of dangling threads. It didn't. One of the dangling threads that I thought was going to continue was this whole mystery of who was really the avian, who was the real bad person. And was that bad person going to continue to be a bad person throughout the season? No, apparently, because all of the people she had been keeping in the basement looked like they killed her. So I don't think she's the big bad threat. But it looks like the big bad threat is the same big bad threat maybe from the previous season, because it looks like our Hyde is out and about and he killed his master. So he's the big bad threat? I'm not sure, which is getting me excited about the next 4 episodes because I want to see where it goes. But more importantly, Wednesday confronts him and she loses. She not only gets knocked out of a window and slammed down on 2 stories down onto some concrete, which probably should have killed her. But she's also cut up and in really bad shape. But of course, she's the star of the show. She's not going to die. But it was an interesting cliffhanger. So I'm digging it. I really enjoyed it. I think it's just the same Wednesday of old. They've just thrown in a few extra characters. Hopefully they don't go too crazy with the characters, but at least they didn't lose the focus of Wednesday, which I really enjoyed because Jenna Ortega is a treat. She's a treasure.
Yeah, I loved just the pace of the story. The fact that they just can keep throwing so many bits at us. They, paid off some of it, as you said, by giving us some answers, by opening up even more, but also just the pace of all the different things that are happening are very within the Wednesday universe, the Addams Family universe. The dialogue is still sharp as a tack. I'm rewinding periodically because I'm finding myself laughing and then knowing I'm missing a good line or something, so that's still very much there. I do appreciate having her parents more involved this year. Pugsley, I could take or leave. I'm not a huge fan of the zombie slurp, which looks like it's going to turn into a more important character maybe. So maybe that'll make that more worthwhile. I mean, I've been, on that, but it's still, our new principal, is interesting to what's going to happen there. I'm not a huge fan of Wednesday not telling Enid why she's so concerned about her. I get why, from a drama point of view, this makes sense, because she's seen her death and feels she's responsible for it. But hopefully that won't take all, 3 out of the last 4 episodes to finally have her come clean on that. But that is very in character for Wednesday, not to be showing a lot of emotion there. So, but there's so many interesting story bits. As you pointed out, they kind of closed off some, but opened up some more. But we just got 4 more fun ones to come, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. At first, I wasn't sure if I was going to like having more of the parents around, but I have, especially how they've tied her into not just the conflict with Wednesday, but the whole fundraising thing, and Joanna Lumley coming in as grandma is fantastic, and how she's throwing wrenches into things. And Uncle Fester was fantastic. Steve Buscemi is really good and very, very different from our principal from last season. So I've liked that. I do like that, Wednesday comes in very confident. Mom would say overconfident. And now that she doesn't have her goody spirit guide, she's not quite on her game. And I do like that bit. I liked the stuff with the camping, and I think that's Michael C. Hall, who was the camp counselor. This show has its edge, of course. People die as a consequence of things. I do agree that I think Pugsley is just not a sympathetic character, because he's just a mean, nasty torturer. He does seem to have a soft spot for this slurp thing, but I'm not a total fan of that character. I also don't like that Eugene seems to be kind of a jerk this season. He doesn't seem to have a purpose other than to stand next to Pugsley in scenes, which is a little bit disappointing. And the siren story could get really interesting as it comes to the blackmail that the principal is doing over her to get fundraising. So we'll see how that stuff goes. And we talked about the trailer and a little bit in the water cooler, but as soon as I saw Gwendolyn Christie and that she's going to be her spirit guide, I am so looking forward to that return and those dynamics, and what she'll bring to solving the mystery and all that stuff.
Yeah, that part should be just a ton of fun.
And I at first, when I saw the Invisible Girl, I don't know about you guys, when I first saw her, I'm like, oh God, this is going to be such an annoying character. But I started to really grow to like her for some reason. It's because I think she's just a mirror version of Wednesday. She has the same sort of don't care, snarky attitude, but she's like a junior version. Like Wednesday's put her down all the time. Like you're an amateur, I love that. And she's like, ow, that hurt. She's a great character.
Well, it is interesting too, because she's doing a good job of putting a wedge between her and Eden, because it's part of what's happening too. So that's more to appreciate from a story point of view. Yeah,
but I don't resent her for what's happening. I think it's more on Enid's side, really. Enid just doesn't understand who her best friend Wednesday really is, and it's not the Invisible Girl doing it on purpose. She's not intentionally trying to drive a divide between them. It's just there's a divide there, and Enid needs to close it.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the dynamic that's going to happen.
Yeah, I do like the Invisible Girl and also her friend who was the shapeshifter, being sort of this little pack. It's following Wednesday around. But I totally understand, Enid was like, you can't use my tagline. You don't get to ride in the elevator. She's really bringing all the petty to protect her role as number one friend.
All right. Well, finishing us out, one last show we're going to discuss is going to be the series finale for Resident Alien, and Wendy's going to start that off. Yeah,
I just thought this was actually a really good resolution to the story for all the characters. The Mantid as the big bad this whole season has not been really the most interesting storyline to me. but I liked that it was Harry and the Scoobies all working together. Everyone knows Harry's an alien now. They have resolved it by going into the tunnel. We've heard repeatedly about the 59 who perished in the tunnel. They solve the mystery and find the guy who was the lost miner as part of that story. But more importantly, I really like the resolutions for all the characters. Max is really accepted by his parents for his abilities, and Darcy, sobers up and grows up, and Asta is going to go on her big adventure outside of Patience. Harry's going to go back to Heather and his babies with Bridget. I liked all that. When they decided to have another alien from Harry's planet show up and, essentially another shot at destroying the world, that I like that Harry reluctantly realizes that this guy can also be persuaded by humanity and friendship to, not pull the trigger either. It was a nice callback, I thought, to the arrival of Harry in the beginning. The friendship between Asta and Harry, which is, to me, so sweet in this show. They had a great scene in the diner when they're talking about both of them, moving on, and how, people you love are never really gone from you. And it was just beautifully played between them. I also liked and thought it was funny that Sheriff Mike and Deputy Liv are gonna join the Men in Black, and protect Earth, as well as, Max potentially. And I just thought that was really fun. And I mentioned in the, water cooler that at the Star Trek convention, the bands played music between panels, and for the Resident Alien panel, at the end, they played the Starship song, and the cast all jumped up and danced around like they did in the bar scene. It was so sweet. They had no idea that was going to happen. It was just really, really sweet. It was an extended goodbye episode, but I was good with that because I knew it was the end of a overall really, really good series.
Yeah, it was a really, really good series. I enjoyed it. It was pretty much the same level to me, maybe a little better because it was a lot funnier than the Librarian stuff, meaning that it was, the entertainment TV. I'd watch it for entertainment. I wouldn't really watch it for shattering stuff. But I really enjoyed it. These final two episodes, I think I'm with a group that thinks maybe the final episode didn't need to be as long as it did. They padded a lot of stuff in there. They went to a lot of depth with a lot of the characters that I didn't necessarily care that much about. But I think it came to a pretty good ending. I'll have to say that if anybody wants a recommendation of a 4-season sci-fi comedy, this is definitely going to be on the list, and I would definitely push this show. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was good with the fact that since they kind of knew, based on what happened with them, with the network, that this was going to be a final season, the fact that we got kind of put a bow tie on a lot of different storylines and people. The last episode, did the last episode need to be 42 minutes of that? Nah, maybe not, but that's okay. I enjoyed it because I cared about these characters. They did a great job, as you pointed out, Brent, for a show that very much started out and seemed like it was just going to be, not in a bad way, your sci-fi comedy, to the fact that I really was caring about these characters. They did a great job, all the actors and the writing, to make the relationships, the things they were dealing with, real and important and still funny, so that the fact that once it became pretty obvious this was going to be the last season, that we got a chance to see them have some of those moments, right down to, as you said, the sheriff and Liv getting a chance to be part of, going on search for aliens and other stuff, along with Harry getting to go home. So Yes, it is definitely one of the best sci-fi comedies. Season 3, I thought, was its apex, just funny as all get out almost every episode with some great story elements. Season 4, like a lot of shows, maybe not its best, but still enjoyable, and you're not going to be left dangling story bits or character relationships. So it's definitely a strong thumbs up for me as well. All right, well, that will finish us up on a very full show since we were away for a couple of weeks and had 3 or 4 shows have their season finales. We hope you folks greatly enjoyed this hopefully as much as we did doing it. So with Dragon Con and Labor Day weekend and all coming up, it'll probably be a couple of weeks before we do our next show, but we've got a lot of genre shows coming in September and beyond, so looking forward to talking about them. So thanks to Wendy and Brent for being here, and we hope you all take care of yourselves.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Catch you next time.
We'd love to hear our listeners voice thoughts and send us feedback. Call us at 706-927-8478. Stop by our tuningintoscifitv.com blog to record a SpeakPipe message, or check the show notes and leave us comments. From the blog, you can also find links to forum discussions and subscribe to our RSS feed. Call into our Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV Skype account and leave us a message. Be social with us on our Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV Facebook page, or follow us at Tuning Into Sci-Fi on Twitter.
The theme music for Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV is by Beatnik Turtle, used with permission. You've been listening to Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, episode 677, recorded August 17th, 2025.